How you doing, guys? Welcome back to another update. In today's video, we're going to be going through the wing fullbacks, talking through the guns in this position. Please hit like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm going to start with James Cedesko. So priced at 63, he's our best fullback in the game, clearly in fantasy and in real life. You can see he has the potential to go absolutely massive on his day, and this is probably the only thing that's going to determine when you bring him in, because he's going to be someone that you definitely want by the end of the season. He's clearly the top guy, as we'll see as we go through the video, but you know, he can have a few lower games and then a few games where he gets up in the 80s and even 111 in one of the games there. As we scroll down through the rest of the year, he's got 2 more games with 100. So I personally was lucky enough to bring him in after this 46 last year when he dropped a fair bit of cash, was down under 700k, and to get a couple of his big scores there. But you know, for most people, it was like, oh, sweet, I didn't start with him last year, and then you know he loses a bit of cash, but then he pulls out a 90 and 100. So for those of people that had him early to get the 80 and the 70 odd as well, it was really a good kickstart to the season that you need. But you know, he's always going to come back around that average. And with this year, Origin only, you know, players only missing 2 games, he could be someone that you just start with from the beginning and go from there. In previous years, he sort of missed 3 to 4 games over that middle period during the bye section, but this time that's not going to happen. So if you have the cash, I'd suggest bringing him in straight away, especially with Ponga being out early. He's your top tier option, clearly, with Ponga the only one that's kind of close, but with an average of 60, so 3 points down. And you can see he was fairly consistent apart from one game there of 17 where he had a little bit of an issue and went off early. But majority of that is he's got a couple of hundreds in there and mixed in with some slightly lower scores in there. So he's our next gun, and he's going to be someone that you're going to want to have in your team as well by the end of the season. But with him being out for a bunch of games at the start of the year and then Origin coming up, I would hold off until after the Origin period and try and get him for sort of the last 7 or 8 rounds. With Teddy there, but obviously we're going to see how things go with injuries and Origin across the season. But that's our chat on Ponga. Let's go to Dylan Edwards. So another guy that had a really good season and actually was able to play a lot more games this season. He did have 2 spurts, and the fact that he started in round 6 and played to round 10, and then from 14 to the end of the season there, and had a great season. You know, wasn't someone that scored a whole bunch of tries, but he's in there. He's always making tackle breaks every game. He's got a bunch of games there with 8 and 9 tackle breaks, but your minimum for the season is a 3, which is awesome, and always gets his high meters gained. So one of those fullbacks that is always going to score well in a good team, and that's something to really think about in this section when we go for the wing fullbacks and the centers. Is, are these guys in a good team, and are they going to be playing well? Are they going to score well? If they're in a good team, they usually are, and if they're not in a good team, they won't. So Edwards will score well, but I don't see much upside with him, especially with his injury history. We'll move on to David Offiluma. Similarly priced at 667, and was in a team that wasn't that great, but just his talent and his ability to break tackles and make a lot of meters with line breaks in there puts him at a really high average for a winger. Something to think about with him. He's done it for a long time, so you can be confident that he should be doing it again. But I'm usually reluctant to put a lot of money into wingers. There's only a few guys that have been worth their time as a winger. I think guys like Mansour and Toto, Nofaluma, these kind of guys that do the hard carries from their line and make a bunch of tackle busts in there as well. So he's someone that he's priced at 50, had a really good season. I don't see him scoring too crazy. Had a couple of low scores at the end to drop down that average, but he's going to go through spurts throughout the season of big scores there in the high 50s. But no upside with him at the moment. We'll move on to Brimson. So this is a little bit of an interesting one for me in terms of the fact that you can see that he finally got his chance, right? We were all high on him in the preseason last year, and unfortunately he was injured, and then came back in first game. He had a 20 and then had a bunch of really nice scores to finish off the season, and then did end up getting a game in Origin where he actually had a decent game, but got injured at the he was injured throughout the game and didn't play on further from there. But in a Titans team that's going to be a lot better this year, this is the kind of guy I'm talking about that if you're in a good team, you're gonna score well, and we'll obviously have to wait and see what the Titans do. But they're a better team than they were last year on paper anyway, and he should score well out the back of those big forwards getting forward, getting over the advantage line, getting the quick play the ball, and you can see him and his speed out the back with guys like, you can get a nice assist to Brian Kelly and these type of players on the outside and getting outside of defenders and scoring well. So I see him as having a small bit of upside, but he's already priced at 50. So he's someone that could get into the top tier of the wing fullbacks, hitting around that 55 mark. I see as his ceiling, but you never know. He scored a bunch of tries, a couple early, and then a few doubles to finish the year for an average score of 50 with only a few try assists. So I think there's a little bit of room in attacking stats, but yeah, other than that, not too much more to say. All right, my favorite player other than Taumalolo. I kind of just want to put him in my team just for the mullet. What does everyone else reckon? 658k, priced at 49. So let's have a little bit of a deep dive in here. You see the start of his season. I started with him last year. First 6 rounds, he's averaging in the high 30s, right? Comes into round 7, picks up an 87, followed by 30s in between. But he's scoring 70, 70, 62, and then really finished out the year really well with a bunch of 50s, a 75, and a 41. So if you're taking his average in the back half of the year, he's up in around that 55 price, and if I can expect him to play similarly to the back end of the year, so he obviously peaked in the final series, I can see him playing a more of a focal point in their attack. At the start, they weren't using him as much as ball playing, and he's even said himself that he knew he had to improve with his ball skills and passing, and you can see in the back half of the year that really came into fruition and just gave him another attacking weapon, whereas he can dummy and go through. He's got the speed to burn, but then he can pass out to his really good centers and wingers on the outside, especially on that left with the Olam and Adokar. I see him as having close to 5 to 6 points upside, and I think he'll be averaging 55 for the end of the season. So AJ and Pappenhausen, I feel, are very, very similar players. So I'd pick the player that you feel you enjoy watching the most out of Gutherson. Pick the one out of them two that you enjoy watching the most if you don't have the cash to get a Teddy. What I'm seeing in this wing fullback position, where it's probably smart to maybe pick one gun. A lot of people have Tom Trbojevic. You could probably have him as your mid-ranger, and then I'm thinking one out-and-out cheapie will probably be the best option for our teams at this stage. But yeah, just work out the makeup of your team. The more cash you have up top, the more consistent it's going to be. If you have a little bit more money down the bottom in the centers and wing fullback, you could get off to a better start, but you could also really have a shocker if a few of these guys have a rough start to their season. So yeah, it's probably a little bit more of a make or break, whereas putting more money into the forwards is going to be a safer strategy from the beginning, especially, and then going from there and picking the guys that are in that red hot form as the season starts ticking over. But Clint Gutson, 47 priced average. You can see he had a bunch of good scores, but this was definitely his best year, and I don't see much further improvement. The Eels played really well on the back of a bunch of his play. He's never been someone that has been an out-and-out gun in fantasy, and I don't see that changing at all from here. Eels should be good again. They have a great team, and they've just got to work out how to play, especially in that back half of the year. I think they just got a bit tired, and things just weren't working out for them as other teams started to peak. But yeah, Gutherson, I don't want to speak too much on him for those reasons I just spoke about. RTS. By the way, guys, I've got a Discord link in the description if you want to jump in there. We've got over 115 members now, and it's going to be really good come season time, especially with late mail and some chats on game day as well. But Roger, price of 47, didn't score many tries at all last year. As you can see, he's got 1 in the first 9 games and then a few to finish off the year. So 5 tries in total is not enough for someone, especially playing in a decent team. They actually went fairly well last year. You can always bank on him averaging close to 200 meters game with getting his tackle busts along the way, but you'd expect a few more attacking stats from him this year, with those two being constant, the attacking stats being the one variable. I can expect him averaging over 50 for this season. It is his last year. I imagine he's going to want to go out with a bang and play really well and captain his his Warriors to a really good season. They've fought well this season, especially in the forwards, but he also has someone like Ewan Aiken who could get some nice try assists too on that left side there. Yeah, it's a similar upside I see to Pappenhausen and AJ Brimson. If you didn't want to go for the premium gun in a Teddy, obviously we can't go Ponga straight away, but in a Teddy, then these guys are really good options for your team. I'm going to talk on a couple of slightly cheaper guys. One in Valentine Holmes. So we move over to the Cowboys. He's priced at 37 off the back of a pretty lean year. Had a really good finish to the year. You can see by the time he came back, had 25, was kicking goals last year as well. So 57, 56, a 33 and a 55 with 2 tries out of those 4 games to go along with some decent running meters and a few busts, but a few line breaks in there as well. So if he can do similar work to what he did in that back 4 games, so let's just say he averages a try every second game, I can see him averaging closer to 50, but he's also someone that can go missing a little bit. We're looking for him to get back to his back end of 2018 form where he peeled off some really nice scores. And you can see he was scoring a lot of tries during those games, as you can see through here. Yeah, trying almost every game and averaging close to 60 over that back 10 rounds. If he can, there's obviously a chance that he gets back to that. He has a higher ceiling than a lot of these guys. Someone like Gutho, I think Holmes has much higher ceiling, but he's in a team that's really struggling. And for Holmes to go really well, I need to see Cowboys playing well. I hope he goes well for my sake, but he's not someone that I'll be looking to bring into my team, but I can understand if people did. I don't see him averaging less than 37, especially in the fullback position. He played a bunch of games on the wing last year as well, which is never going to help him as a player. But if he's locked down the fullback spot, I see some upside with Holmes. And we'll go for a couple more guys. Let's talk about Brian Toto at 580k, a little bit more expensive. Priced at 43. Again, a winger, very similar to Josh Mansour. Mansour's had a couple of years where he averaged 50. And I think he's a little bit more explosive than what Toto is. I really rate Toto as a player, but he's someone that is in a great team. He was all of last year. Did miss a bunch of games through the middle of the season, but he scored enough tries to show that that was a pretty normal year for him. We got 2, 4, 6. Yeah, so he's got 6 tries throughout the season for his close to 12 games there, which is about 1 every 2 games, to go along with his high meters gain and his normal tackle break. So I don't see a lot of upside in him unless he starts scoring close to a try a game. But again, I'm not wanting to put my cash into many wingers unless they're out and out cheapy. All right, let's finish off with 2 guys. So Matt Dufty obviously should have the fullback position. This one's just going to depend on how well the Dragons play. He played pretty well last year, regardless of how they went. There's a lot of tries in there, a bunch of doubles throughout the season, and had a little bit of a lean patch to finish the year with a couple of good scores the last 3. But that's very normal for someone like Dufty, who's a very hit and miss player in terms of the boom or bust, I should say, where you could score a bunch of tries in a game and then go missing. I feel like he was much more consistent last year, but for him, with priced at 33 already, I don't really see him averaging 50. I can see him averaging closer to 45, but he does have a little bit of a lower floor in my thoughts, being closer to 35. So 38, I'd say. So 38 to about 48, I think is the range you should see Dufty in. Not someone that I'd like to be starting with, especially when you can go someone like an RTS Pappenhausen or an AJ Brimson. And last one, Latrell Mitchell at 493. Price very much similar to Valentine Holmes, and I see them both as having a very similar upside, with a floor closer to 35. So not too much going on there. But yeah, priced at 37, had a very up and down year. I unfortunately brought him in after he's 74, I think, or 63, one of the two. I think I got one good score in amongst a lot of shit. But yeah, he's someone that, when playing decently, he has his floors somewhere in the mid 20s, and then has the potential to hit the 60s and 70s. And what you're going to see in a team that's going to go really well, he should score well. But again, it's so up and down. Sometimes he's not someone that has really high meters gained. So that's where his issues are, and then from there won't get as many tackle breaks. But yeah, my thoughts on him. It's probably a wait and see. He had a very up and down year, and I wouldn't want to be jumping onto him too fast this season. As I said, with other guys that have they're more consistent and probably can score a little bit higher. I see Latrell as being probably a slightly better option than Valentine Holmes just because he's in a better team. But other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed that one. As I said, please hit like and subscribe. We're growing a nice community here, and jump into that Discord group if you can. We'll get that really rocking and rolling as we get closer to the season. But have a good one, guys. See you later.